So the Federal Reserve decided to pause on interest rate hikes in their last meeting last week. However, interest rates are still going up. As of today, I think they were about 7.6%. So until they get inflation under control, interest rates are likely going to remain higher for longer. So the question still is, if you don't have a house yet, should you buy a house now? I'm going to talk about should you buy a house, the housing forecast for home prices and mortgage rates. And then if you decide that you're going to be in the market, what you should offer for a house you're interested in. So let's get into it. I'm Shaheedah Hill, getting you over the hill to home ownership and helping you confidently buy your first home. All right, so we're going to talk about a couple of different things. And here we go. I say buy when you are financially ready, and this is going to be different for everyone. Of course, you're waiting probably until everything feels more stable, and we're getting to the point of stability, but that stability is going to be a higher interest rate. Remember, they're not going to be 2%, they're not going to be 3% or 4%. In the next few years or so, they're either going to be 5%, 6%, or even 7%. And projections are that home prices are going to stay up as long as inventory remains low or very tight, depending on where you are. So buying when you're financially ready could mean mortgage no more than 25 to 35% of your take home pay. If you're a follower of Dave Ramsey, he says don't go higher than 25% of your take home pay. And I know that's a little bit tight for a lot of people. Some other financial people, they do a higher amount of your gross pay. So I've done it to still be relatively conservative, that it's going to be between 25 and 35% of your take home pay. And I have done a video about how I came up with that number, okay? That you have an emergency fund, you have some money saved aside from your down payment savings, your closing cost savings, anything you're saving for the house. You have, after you purchase your home, you have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved if you have that. Number 3, you're planning on living in the home, and I've increased this lately. Typically it's 5 to 7 years. I've increased it to 7 to 10 years. Are you willing to live in that house at least 7 years? Because if there is some volatility in the market, because really, if you're planning on living there 1, 2, 3 years, just rent, because you may not make your money back if prices were to go down, right? So I want you to have a longer term plan, because in the long run, real estate has steadily gone up over the years. We're going to look back 10 years from now on this market and say, hey, homes were only $400,000 on average, when in 10 years they may be $600,000. So think long term as you think about real estate. Okay. Real estate long term is still a good investment. But if any of those things financially are a little bit shaky for you, then you may want to wait. If you don't have financial stability, if you don't have location stability, what I mean by this is you may get another job in another state, that sort of thing. And so you may not, be where you are going to stay in an area for several years or more. If that's not clear, don't buy a house right now. If you don't have relationship stability, maybe it's on and off, or maybe you might get a divorce in the future, or you're trying to buy with a boyfriend, or, that type of thing where it's a little bit shaky, then probably don't want to buy a house. So financial, location, and relationship, you want to make sure all of those things are stable. If you don't have stability, then that's what renting is for. Renting is short term. You do it for a year, and then you decide whether you want to, renew your lease, or maybe you want to do something more permanent. But renting is for people that don't have that stability where they're going to live in one place for a long period of time. All right, so let's go over the forecast, and then I'm going to get into, if you are in the market, how you should decide what you should offer on a property. All right, so a few different predictions or forecasts that I got. So Fannie Mae predicts a 6.1% on average mortgage rate in 2024. The National is down more than 1%. The National Association of Realtors, 6%. The Mortgage Bankers Association predicts a 30-year rate of 5.4 by the end of 2024. And then Morgan Stanley predicts rates at about 6%. So if we're looking in 2024, rates are probably going to be in about the 6% range. So when you're doing your calculations for affordability, we don't know, and I'm going to talk about that next, where exactly home prices are going to be. The tighter inventory remains, the more prices are either going to stay where they are or they're going to increase. And as interest rates go down, more demand for those properties can happen. There's one or two things that are going to happen when interest rates go up. And I'm going to go to the next slide. More people may put their homes on the market because a lot of people are not moving because they're increasing their expenses from the mortgage rate that they have now to the mortgage rate that they would probably get at 7%. So imagine going from a 3% fixed rate to a 7% mortgage, right? So that's a huge leap for a lot of people that are going to be increasing their expenses. So, but if it comes down to maybe 6%, even if it comes down to 5%, you'll have more people on the resale market that are willing to sell their home and buy another home at 5 or 6%. So that might also increase inventory and might keep, home prices a little bit more stable. But here are a few home price forecasts for 2024. Zillow's anticipating a 6.5% increase in home prices in 2024 between July of this year and July of 2024. Freddie Mac is predicting an increase of just a little bit less than 1%. And then Moody Analytics on the other side, they are seeing a decrease of the price of homes of 3.5%. So we'll see what's going to happen. I think it's going to be in a lot of agents' minds, it's going to be more of a stable market. So you're not going to see these wide swings of 20% higher home prices and that sort of thing. Everything should begin to stabilize in 2024. So lastly, I wanted to talk about comparable home sales. What to offer. So when you're thinking about what to offer on a property, so you're in the market, you're deciding to buy now, and the next video I want you to watch, because people are talking about, well, I'll just refinance later. I want you to watch my video on when should you refinance. So I'll have that as a video that's going to play next. But when you're thinking about what to offer on a house, there are a few things I want you to look at. There are 7 on this list. So comparable home sales. You want to know, there's always going to be a list price that seller wants for their home. But before you think that that's the market price, you need to pull up homes that are similar in the closest proximity to that property. So that's comparable home sales. What are other homes selling for that are very similar to that property that you want? How many days has it been on the market? So if the average days on the market in your area, say, is 25, and this property has been on the market for 5 days, then they're not probably that willing to negotiate or come down on their price yet, because it hasn't been on the market long enough. It hasn't been on the market longer than average. The longer the property stays on the market, typically the more motivated the seller is to sell it. So you want to know the average days on the market in your area, and then how long has that property that you're interested been on the market. Seller motivation. There are a lot of different reasons why sellers need or want to sell their house. You're really looking for sellers that need to sell their house. Maybe it's a divorce situation. Maybe they're moving out of state. Maybe they're behind on their payments. Whatever that motivation is, you want to find someone who really needs to sell their house, and then they're more than likely willing to pay some of your closing costs, to negotiate with you on the price. But if they don't have a strong motivation to sell, then they may not be that much wiggle room in the price that they want for their home. So for example, there's a home for sale in my area. The people are building a new construction home. They do have to, as the closer they get to their new construction home being complete, the more motivated they're going to be to sell their current residence, because a lot of people can't maintain both mortgages. They have to sell one house in order to close on the other house. So that is motivation. Now, this house has been on the market for more than 3 months. So they'll probably, as they get closer and closer to that new house being built, they'll be more reasonable as to selling their house. So their price has come down recently because, again, they're getting more motivated to get that house sold. So you want to know the seller's motivation. Another thing you want to think about before you put in an offer is the condition of the property. Are you going to have to do a lot of repairs for this property? Is there, how old is the roof? How old is the HVAC system? All of those things you need to think about, because if the owner hasn't, maintained the property, if they haven't replaced some of those things, then that expense will be on you as the new owner. So you want to be very mindful of the condition of the property before you make your offer. And then available inventory. Are you in your area? Are you in a seller's market? Are you in a balanced market? Are you in a buyer's market? Are there more properties than buyers, right? Then that'll put you in a buyer's market. But if there are more buyers than there are properties, that's going to put you in a seller's market. And your agent is able to tell you what type of market you're in, because if you find a house and you are in a seller's market, that type of home may not become available again. But when you're in a buyer's market, homes are plentiful. So if you don't get one house, it's usually very easy for you to find another house that's probably comparable to that one. And then the level of competition. How many offers are on the house, or how many offers are anticipated to come in for this house? This is something that you can ask the agent directly. If you want to verify it, you can look at some of the showings, like how many showings have they had. And I've done a video about how you can look those up. But you want to see how much competition will you have for this property? How many other buyers are going to be putting in offers for this property? And then lastly, you want to look at the public and private comments that listing agents put on their properties. Sometimes they're very blatant. They say seller must sell, motivated seller. They're putting all of those things in the comments, and that's for you to know. Make an offer. Don't come in at list price, that sort of thing. You want to make sure that you're doing all of those things ahead of time, and you can do them all at once, especially if you have an experienced agent. You can pull that stuff together very quickly before you make an offer. So I hope this was helpful. If you are in the market to buy, there's really no rush, I want to say, to buy a house right now. You just want to make sure you're making the right decision financially for yourself. If you have any questions, please put in the comments and I'll be sure to answer them. Have a great one.